Minnesota nights are quiet. Too quiet. Especially out here in Bemidji, where the cold air bites and the silence breathes. I took the graveyard shift at a nearly forgotten regional airport. Easy money, right? Just watch the radar, sip coffee, and keep the lights on. But there was a list taped to the back wall of the control tower. 7 handwritten rules, faded and torn. One of them said, if you see a plane landing between 3:04 and 3:33 a.m., do not let it taxi to Gate 7. That gate was sealed in 1996 for a reason. Last night, that gate opened by itself. Asterisk, I wasn't supposed to end up here. Bemidji is one of those towns that shows up on a map only if you zoom in far enough. It's tucked into northern Minnesota like a forgotten thought, surrounded by endless pines and lakes that freeze so deep in the winter you start to wonder what's really under the ice. The kind of place that holds on to silence a little too long that I had just left Duluth. Needed something quieter, simpler. I was done with the city, the sirens, the screaming neighbors, the thin apartment walls that let every fight and sob creep into my head. A friend from back in college mentioned an open position up north. Night shift dispatcher at Bemidji Regional Airport. It's nothing, he told me. Some radar pings, the occasional cargo plane, and a shit ton of coffee. So, I took it. The first night was uneventful. Bitter cold, sure, but the small tower room had its heater. I brought my thermos, my headphones, and my Kindle, thinking I'd binge through half a book and cruise through a sleepy 8 hours. That was before I found the rules. They weren't part of the official binder. Not in the training packet. No, they were written on yellowed paper, old, cracked, and pinned behind the backup switchboard with a rusty thumbtack. Like someone had tried to hide them, or maybe just wanted them there for whoever might look hard enough. The top said, read before shift, memorize, ignore at your own risk. Do not go outside between 2:13 a.m. and 3:03 a.m. under any circumstance, even if someone is knocking, especially if they're knocking. If the radar shows movement but no flight plan, turn off the runway lights immediately. Count to 60, then turn them back on. A man in a pilot's uniform may enter the tower after midnight. He is not real. Do not offer him coffee. Do not speak. Do not blink. If the power cuts and the emergency lights glow red, hide under the desk. Cover your ears. Wait until the lights turn green. Gate 7 is sealed. It has been sealed since 1996. No plane lands there. If one does, do not acknowledge it. Do not open the gate doors. You may hear music over the intercom after 3 a.m. It will sound like 40s swing. Do not hum along. Ever. If a flight lands that isn't on your log and the passengers don't speak, make sure none of them leave the terminal, even if they ask nicely. Especially if they smiled. I stared at it for maybe 5 minutes straight. It felt like a prank. A leftover Halloween joke. Maybe a game the last dispatcher played with new hires. But it was the way the ink had bled into the page, the scratchy, anxious handwriting, that made me uneasy. These weren't written by someone having fun. These were written by someone scared. That first night, I followed the rules out of curiosity. Why the second night? I followed them because I had to. Airplane night 2. 2:17 a.m. The knocking started. 3 loud bangs on the tower door that I paused the security feed. No alerts. No movement on any cameras. I looked at the front monitor, still nothing. But the knocking came again. 3 more times. Slow. Deliberate. Too precise to be the wind. I stood, my breath frosting in the cold air. The heater hummed behind me. My hand reached for the sidearm I wasn't allowed to carry, a habit from my security days in Duluth that I forced myself to look at the security screen again. Still nothing. Then something occurred to me. Something subtle, terrifying. The door wasn't locked. I had left it unlocked because it was protocol, fire code, or some crap. But rule 1. I stepped back. Another knock. I moved fast, turned the deadbolt, slid the chain across, and stepped away. The moment I locked it, silence. Total, perfect silence. Not even wind. Like the night was holding its breath. Airplane night 3, a false landing. 2:55 a.m. radar lit up. There was a ping on the east approach. No flight plan filed. No commercial or cargo run listed. It just appeared. I remembered rule 2. Heart racing. I switched off the runway lights. The screens dimmed. The tower went black except for the soft green glow of emergency indicators. I counted aloud. 1, 2, 3. At 45, something brushed the edge of the tower. It wasn't a bird. Too heavy. Too slow. Like dragging. Metal. Like landing gear across the roof. I counted faster. 55, 56, 57. At 60, I switched the lights back on. The ping was gone. I rewound the cameras. Nothing. No plane. No vehicle. But the roof camera, the one pointed straight down at the service hatch, glitched. A single frame stood out. A shadow, long and thin, pressed against the hatch like something was crawling on top, trying to find a way in. Airplane. The man in the pilot's uniform. He came on night 5 at midnight sharp. I was sipping coffee when the elevator dinged, which was odd, because the only way up to the tower was a locked stairwell. There was no elevator. Still, I heard the ding. Then the doors whooshed open. I turned, and there he was, dark blue pilot's uniform. Crisp, ironed, but old, the kind of cut they wore in the 60s. He stepped into the tower like he belonged there. He didn't say a word, didn't look at me. Just walked over to the window, staring out into the darkness of the runways. I wanted to say something. Offer him coffee. Ask what flight he came in on, but I remembered Rule 3. So I sat still. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw his face twitch, just once, and his mouth smiled too wide, too slow, like a stretching mask. No skin under his jaw. Just dark air and teeth like broken piano keys. He vanished at 12:31. Airplane. A final entry on Gate 7 ILL in this chapter with the one thing that broke me. It was last night. July 6 th.3:11 a.m. A plane landed. Tail code. In 749 GT. Logs didn't recognize it'd no flight plan, but it taxied straight to Gate 7. I watched in frozen horror as the automatic gate lights flickered on, even though that section was supposed to be disconnected from power. And then the gate opened. A woman stepped out. She wore a flight attendant's uniform. Blonde curls, pale face, eyes completely black. Behind her came the passengers. They didn't speak. They didn't blink. They just smiled. I grabbed the PA mic, throat dry. I whispered, "Security to Gate 7." But no one came, because there is no security. Not anymore. Only me and the rules. And tonight, I think one of them got in. You ever feel watched by something you can't even describe? That's what the rest of that night felt like. After the Gate 7 incident, the tower didn't go quiet. It felt thick, like the air itself was watching, listening, breathing. And I knew one thing with gut punch certainty. One of them didn't stay at the terminal. Someone, or something, walked off that plane and into this airport. I didn't sleep the next day. Couldn't. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw those smiling passengers, dozens of them, floating off that unlisted flight like they were on invisible tracks. Their expressions didn't change. Their eyes didn't blink. They moved in perfect unison, like puppets yanked by a quiet, invisible string. And that woman, the flight attendant, the way she tilted her head at the cameras like she knew I was watching, like she'd been waiting for me. Telephone receiver at 9:13 p.m. Back at the tower, I considered calling someone. FAA, Homeland Security, hell, even a local cop. But what the hell was I gonna say? Hi. A ghost plane landed at Gate 7, and now I think a demon in a stewardess outfit is roaming the halls. No, I had to play it smart. I clocked in again. Same route. Same long drive through pine-dark roads until the runway lights peeked over the trees. The tower door was still locked. But the keypad entry light, it was blinking red. Someone had tried to punch in the code. When I got to the top, everything looked the same. The heater still hummed. The radar blinked. The coffee machine burbled softly. But on the desk where I kept my shift notebook, there was a folded napkin. A cheap diner napkin, yellowed at the edges. I never left one there. On it, scribbled in what looked like airline blue ink, were the words, "We know you watched. Come greet the arrivals next time." I tore it in half and flushed it. That was mistake #1. Radio 12:42 a.m. The PA music, it started soft out a strange scratchy swing tune, like something pulled from a dusty record. Muffled brass, jazzy drums, a warbling old-time crooner singing something about flying first class through the clouds. At first, I thought someone had patched into the intercom accidentally. Then I remembered Rule 6. If you hear music over the intercom after 3 a.m., do not hum along. Ever. But it wasn't after 3 o'clock yet. It was only 12:42 a.m. I leaned into the mic. Maintenance? Is that you patching music into line B? Silence. Then the music stopped abruptly, mid-verse. The static lingered like someone hadn't quite let go of the mic. Then came a voice. Not mine. Not human. It's earlier than usual, isn't it? You're eager. I nearly flipped the master breaker. The only thing that stopped me was seeing the elevator light turn on again. Ding. Same time as before, I pulled out the fire axe from behind the cabinet. I didn't care about protocol. Not anymore. Bust in silhouette, the second visit the elevator doors opened. In 01 inside. I waited. Nothing came out. I took one step forward, axe tight in my grip. Then something crawled out. It wasn't the pilot this time. It was a child, maybe 7 years old. Girl, wearing a too clean white dress, like something from a funeral. No sound as she walked, just the softest pad of bare feet on linoleum. She looked up at me, eyes gone, black voids, and when she opened her mouth, the crooner's swing song started playing from her throat like a speaker. High above the clouds we go, in the sky where secrets grow, I screamed. Swung the AXE.IT passed through her like smoke. She turned into ash midair, ash that didn't fall, but hovered like it was waiting. Then it moved toward me. I ran into the break room and slammed the door. The ash stayed out, but the music kept playing inside my skull. Scroll updated rules. I needed answers. Something. Anything. So I pulled that old rule sheet off the wall again. This time, it had changed. A new rule had appeared, in a different handwriting. Scratched, hard into the bottom, like carved by fingernail. 8. If you destroy a message, it will be sent again. Louder and closer. My throat tightened. That damn napkin. I shouldn't have flushed it. I, the man on the runway 2:50 am. The radar pinged. Again, but not from above. This one was moving on foot, on the tarmac. I switched the outer cams. One man. Running. In jeans and a flannel. Looked terrified. He ran straight down the main runway, toward the terminal. Toward gate 7. I grabbed the PA. Sir, stop. You're not cleared for. He turned toward the camera, eyes wide. His mouth moved. I lip read it clearly. Don't let them land again. Burn the gate. Then something grabbed him. From above, a long black shadow, like a net of limbs and fingers and wrong angles, descended on him. He didn't scream. He just folded, like his body gave up. Like his bones were replaced with fog. And then there was nothing. Not even blood. 3 o'clock, 3:04 a.m. Flight N2-613. A new ping appeared on the radar. Tailcode N2-613 unknown. No flight plan. No pilot registry. It circled once. Then again, the control panel buzzed. A static whine I couldn't mute. The plane came in low. Way too low. I turned the runway lights off. Counted to 60. But this time, the plane still landed. I saw it clearly through the fog. Polished aluminum. 1950s style. No logos. No numbers except one scratched into the tail. 613. The same flight number from the man's warning. It taxied toward gate 7. Again, I ran to the security panel. I overrode the gate lock. Tried to seal it, but the system overrode me back. Access granted. The gate opened by itself, and this time, something else came out. It was tall. Too tall. A uniform stretched over skin like wet leather. The smile was carved. Literal slits in the face that oozed something black. It didn't walk. It glided. Behind it came the others. Row after row, all smiling. All headed straight toward the tower. Telephone receiver, final transmission. 3:26 a.m. I made one last radio call. This is Bemidji Regional Control Tower. This is not a prank. I repeat, this is not a prank. Gate 7 is compromised. Multiple unknowns on the premises. The mic cut out. The lights flickered red. I dove under the desk, heart hammering, ears ringing. Rule 4. Cover your ears. Wait until the lights turn green. I did, and the screaming started, but it wasn't outside. It was in the wiring. The walls. The very metal of the building. It sounded like plane engines shrieking through teeth. I blacked out. Sunrise 7 a.m. Silence again. I woke to green lights. Morning light cutting through the glass. Everything was quiet. Radar clean. Runways empty. The logs. No record of any flight in 2-613. No record of anything. Except one file saved under a hidden folder on the tower's computer. Manifest.pdf. Inside, a passenger list. Every name was blank, except one at the bottom. I almost didn't come back. After the incident with Flight N2-613, the crawling stewardess, and the eerie jazz echoing from the throat of a child made of ash, my instincts told me to quit. Burn my uniform, delete my badge record, and disappear into the northern woods. But I didn't, because when I woke up in my apartment the next morning, face down on the kitchen floor, nose bleeding, clothes reeking of smoke, I found something. Waiting for me on my phone, a single new voicemail, no caller ID. Timestamped 3:39 a.m. I hesitated before playing it. You cannot leave the post. You are the last controller. If you abandon the tower, the next flight will land in your backyard. And then, jet engines. Right outside my window. Luggage 9:01 p.m. A suitcase on the runway that night. I got back to the tower. I unlocked the main doors with shaking hands. I passed the empty check-in desks, flickering vending machines, and abandoned luggage carousel that hadn't spun in years. When I reached the tower, something stopped me cold. A suitcase sat right in the middle of runway 2, it just sitting there, untouched, and no tracks around it. No footprints. No tire marks. I zoomed in using the tarmac camera. It was marked with my initials. The tag read, property of, redacted destination, runway 13, inbound processing, but we only had 2 runways. Runway 1 and 2. There was no runway 13 at least. Not on any map I'd ever seen. World Map, the secret mappy, scoured the archives. I tore apart the old flight logs, dug through backup server tapes, climbed into the maintenance room behind the furnace where no one had touched the file cabinets in decades. That's when I found it. A hand-drawn map of Bemidji Regional, with something strange scratched in pencil beneath the existing layout. Runway 13. Dead straight, angled east by northeast. Right into the woods. The IT wasn't labeled like the others. Instead, it was boxed in with jagged handwriting. Do not open this door. And worse, the gate at the end of runway 13 connected directly to gate 7. Flashlight exploring runway 132:11 a.m. Against every instinct, I did the stupid thing. I walked outside. I waited until it was before the restricted 213 to 303 window. The cold was aggressive. Needles in my lungs. And then I saw it. Runway 13. Where there had been nothing but forest before, there it was. Long, narrow, made of black concrete that steamed gently like it had been poured an hour ago. The runway lights flickered on by themselves. The forest at the end parted, swayed, and I swear I saw tail lights blinking in the trees. Something was taxiing toward me. Airplane, the unseen plane. It never showed up on radar, no audioed, no heat sig, but I heard it. Engines rumbling low, slow, like a growling. Stomach. My ears popped like it was changing pressure midair. I crouched behind a grounded baggage cart and watched. The shape emerged, not from the sky, but from the woods. A sleek, rotting fuselage. No windows. The nose was broken and bent, dragging like it had crash-landed 100 years ago and never stopped moving. It coasted past me. Silent. The landing gear screeched like old bones. It stopped at gate 7. And then, the air stilled, and someone inside the tower turned the gate door switch. Telephoned the call from the tower. I raced back. Elevator was out. I took the stairs 2 at a time. Burst through the control room door, but I wasn't alone. A man sat in my chair, back, facing me, wearing my headset. Get out, I shouted. He turned around. It was me, but bloated, pale, like he'd been floating in ice water for weeks, flesh peeling at the ears. His left eye was gone. A maggot crawled down his cheek like it had a purpose. You were late, he said in my voice, and then he evaporated into fog. Video cassette, the forgotten security footage shaking. I checked the security logs. Point 1 camera file had survived. CM 13_gate 7_FWD. I clicked play. It showed a cargo loader pulling up to the open belly of the runway 13 plane. Point 1 crate. Large, leaking something red-black from its corners. Point 2 men in outdated airport jumpsuits lifted it onto the dolly. But as they did, something inside shifted. A hand, not human, pressed against the inside of the wooden slats. Each finger had too many joints. The nails looked like surgical knives. Then I watched the 2 workers bend forward and start whispering to the crate. Clipboard. Rule update. When I returned to the rule sheet, it had been altered again, not added to. Changed. Old Rule 5. Gate 7 is sealed. It has been sealed since 1996. Now said, Gate 7 was sealed. It is now in use. Do not question this. Obey the manifest. Accept the deliveries. A new rule was at the bottom. 9. If you meet yourself in the tower, ask which shift you're on. If he answers, push him off the balcony. He isn't you. I passenger manifest. Entry #1 back on the tower computer. The file manifest.pdf had changed. Passenger list was updated. This time, a single name appeared. Inbound arrival. Gate 7 name. You already know. Role, control officer. Final destination, runway 13 one-way. Then the screen blacked out, and a message scrawled across it in red. We are almost ready to depart. All we need now is your surrender. 4:03:03 a.m. The girl returns, the Ash girl. She appeared in the corner of the room like smoke being sucked backward through a fan. She pointed at me, opened her mouth. You flushed our invitation. I backed away. Stay the hell away from me. She smiled. Then the tower lights cut out. Emergency lights turned red, then green, then red again. Back and forth, like a strobe. The girl began to glitch, phasing between forms. Old woman. Flight attendant. My mother. Myself. She whispered something. I will never forget. Runway 13 doesn't take off, it lands. All the way down. And then, she stepped off the edge of the tower balcony and vanished mid-fall. Name badge, the black box, last horror for the night. When I turned around, there was a black box recorder sitting on my desk, still warm. Beeping. I pressed play. Only one log. Inside, pilot log, flight N2-613. Runway 13 final report. Cabin depressurization successful. Cargo manifest secured. One passenger escaped protocol. Control officer failed Gate 7 seal. We will reclaim him before dawn. The tape ended. With laughter.my laughter, but I wasn't laughing. I always thought airports were liminal places, places between places. You don't live there. You don't die there. You pass through, suspended in time and space. Transient, rootless, in flux. But Bemidji Regional wasn't just an airport.it. Was a trap, and I wasn't passing through anymore. I had been drafted. And tonight, the airport wasn't letting me go. Stop sign 8:06 p.m. Departure notice. The moment I arrived back at the tower, the computers were already on .no login.no boot up. Just one open screen, black with pulsing red text. Final boarding. Flight 000, Gate 7, departing 3:33 a.m. Manifest. One soul remaining. Roll. Control officer. You. I didn't even sit down. Something was humming under the floorboards. A low thrumming noise like propellers underwater. The lights dimmed twice. The walls seemed to shrink inward, like the tower itself was breathing. Clipboard. The final rule. I opened the old yellow rule sheet. Point 1 final line had appeared. One last edition, written in a perfect red inked hand. Too neat, too deliberate. 10. When your name is on the manifest, there are no rules left. Just choices. I blinked, and under that line, in shaky writing, someone else had scribbled something. Desperate. Don't board. Don't listen. Don't turn your back on the terminal doors. The stewardess lies. The pilot can't see you if you close your eyes. My blood went cold. The air in the tower shifted. I turned toward the security monitors, and there she was, the stewardess, waiting outside the elevator. Person standing. 12 a.m. Welcome aboard. I locked the doors. That didn't matter. The elevator still dinged. She stepped out gracefully, heels tapping like clock hands. Her uniform was pressed, her blonde hair immaculate, but the flesh at her jaw cracked like porcelain. Her smile was carved far too wide. Good evening, control officer. We're boarding early. I didn't speak. You've done well. You've obeyed the checklist. Maintained gate integrity. You deserve a window seat on our final voyage. Why? Me. I croaked. She tilted her head. A mechanical twitch. Because you stayed. Everyone else tried to leave. Or ask questions. Or scream. You followed the rules. And now, you're qualified. I backed toward the breaker. She smiled wider. We'll be wheels up soon. All we need is you. Don't make us send the others. She vanished. Just blinked out. Like she was never there. Airplane 2:17 a.m. The flight that never ends. The air. Traffic radar pinged with something massive. Not a single flight. Not a cargo plane. A fleet. Multiple aircraft appeared on the scope. Flight numbers from decades past. Call signs from 1972, 1966, even 1943. Planes that had gone missing. disappeared. Midair. Planes with no black box recoveries. They were all converging on Bemidji, all headed for runway 13 that I watched in horror as they began descending. Perfect formation, but the sky was clear. The radar silent. The cameras showed nothing, yet the concrete shook, and a voice whispered from every speaker in the tower. They're all coming home. Ice cubed the frozen lounge. I left the tower. I couldn't take the pressure in the air. The way the walls trembled. The distant music that shouldn't be there. I walked down toward the north terminal, sealed since 1997 after a supposed electrical fire. But tonight, the doors were wide open. Inside, the air was frozen. Breath crystallized instantly, and rows of people, not quite right, sat in silence. They looked like passengers in a waiting lounge. But none blinked. None moved. Some had no faces, just flat skin. Others had dozens of eyes, mouths where noses should be, or sat too still, like mannequins dressed in outdated suits and dresses. At the far wall, a departure board flickered. The flight's all read 000, and the destination. The gate. Not gate 7. Not gate 13. Just the gate. And next to that, a photograph. Framed in gold. Of me. Floppy disk playback loop. Final recording. I rushed back to the tower. The security system rebooted. A voice began playing from the radio logs. It was mined out a perfect recording from a night that hadn't happened yet. Control log. Flight 000 departed at 3:33 a.m. All manifest entries confirmed. Final control officer assumed non-physical form. I can still see the gate. I think I'm inside it now. I think I am the gate. I yanked the power cord from the wall. The audio kept playing. Airplane arrival 3:33 a.m. Final descent outside the runway. Lights changed. Green, red, black. A single aircraft touched down. No wheels. No noise. Just arrival. Flight 000. Its doors opened like an unfolding ribcage. Inside, there was no interior. Just sky. Endless, shifting sky filled with stars I've never seen before. I felt something move behind me. I turned and saw myself, but not the bloated corpse version. Not the fog duplicate, the real me. From a different time. Maybe a different loop. He looked tired. "Hello. Don't board," he whispered. "Once you do, you don't come back." I already did. I whispered back. He shook his head. "No, you haven't yet. But you're about to. They trick you with the rules. You think if you follow them, you're safe. But the rules don't keep you alive. They just keep you here." Footprints. The passenger that left a shadow passed down the corridor, not arriving. Leaving. It wasn't smiling. Wasn't like the others. It limped, slowly, dragging something behind it. A chain. A suitcase. A pass. It saw me, nodded, and left out the south exit, into the woods. I broke. Ran after it, sprinted into the dark. Away from the tower. Away from gate 7. Away from runway 13. For the first time, I didn't follow the rules. Evergreen tree. The clearing. The forest opened into a clearing I'd never seen before. There was no wind. No sound. Just a single airline tray table, stuck into the dirt. Like a grave marker. On it, a note. "You can still leave. But only if you remember who you were before the manifest." I couldn't. I'd been working nights so long. I couldn't remember what I did before. A name? A purpose? All I remembered was the tower, the gate, the rule sheet. And that meant it was too late. At the grave at gate 7. When I returned to the tarmac, the tower was gone. So was the airport. All that remained was gate 7, half buried in frost and dirt like a gravestone. And a voice spoke softly behind me. "Welcome home." I turned. The stewardess. Her smile gone. Now, she looked human. Almost tired, a little sad. Everyone gets one flight in. No flight out. Unless someone takes your place. She held out a clipboard. At the bottom. A line. "Control officer. Redacted. Replacement found. Pending. Sign the form," she said. "You'll be free. You can leave. Someone else will take your shift." I stared at the pen. And then, I dropped it. Radio final transmission. I walked back into the forest. The snow began to fall. Behind me, the airport blinked back into view. And then slowly faded, piece by piece, until only the runway lights remained. Flickering. A small radio buzzed in my pocket. I don't know how it got there. I clicked it on. A child's voice whispered, "You're not on the manifest anymore. That means we can't see you." And then, the static cleared. I heard my own voice, distant, echoing like through miles of fog. This is Control Tower at Bemidji Regional. If you're hearing this, don't ever follow the rules. That's how they catch you. The line went dead. Ring Planet Epilogue. Gate 7 reopens in 5 minutes. Some say Bemidji Airport shut down in 2001, but the tower still flickers on clear winter nights. Gate 7 still hums when the wind is right. And runway 13. You can't find it on any map. But sometimes, if you drive north long enough, past where the road stops and the air turns still, you might hear a plane overhead. Point 1 that shouldn't exist. And if you ever receive an offer to work night shift at a sleepy old airport in Minnesota, don't take it. Even if the pay's great. Even if you're desperate, because some places aren't meant to fly you away. Some places are where the lost flights land, and someone has to open the gate.